This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the W Debate.
Welcome to the W Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something earlier. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. Who jumped up and
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. Jay, I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I whacked poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out. Justin Fields. Hello, Columbus. 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herb Street ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
What will our campus rankings look like at this time next year? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to fast forward 3 years into the future to try to think about what our C200 rankings are going to look like. If you aren't familiar with our C200 rankings, that is our combined NCAA and NFL rankings. You can go check those out at campustocanton.com. But before we get to that, I think we're going to have a little bit of a show meeting here tonight, right off the bat. This is something that I think I've been mulling over personally for like a year or more. Matthew, our colleague, Mike Valerie, has made fun of us for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the question has to be put out there. Should we change the name of the show? Because this is the Devy Debate, but we cover way more than Devy fantasy football analysis. We've touched on race on this show, culture, like economics, kind of anything that touches college football. So, Matthew, does Mike have a point that this isn't the Devy Debate? This is something that kind of uses Devy to talk about college football in a general respect.
First off, I have to mention Chris Moxley with the hamburger meat hanging out there a little bit. I'm loving the shirt there. No, keep it unbuttoned.
Do I need to button up or
it's no. It's after hours here.
That's true.
I will not. I refuse to give in to, much like the FBI, we do not negotiate with terrorists, nor do we give in to their demands. This is by far the best Devy show on the network. The downloads prove that. So no, it does not need to change. Alliteration matters too, right? Like Devy Debate, it just sounds good. It really sounds good.
Yeah.
Mox, I mean, we've had this conversation privately.
Yeah, I think one day you called me and you said, "Hey, what do you think about changing the word Devy?" And I think that's true. It's in the lexicon now, though, so like so many people know what it is. There's a challenge there, but it doesn't describe, I don't think, at least accurately, what we do. Like, there's no light bulb moment. Like, you have to be explained what Devy is.
If you are a casual fan. And obviously I have more here than everybody else does because I could do 10 minutes on this subject. If you are a casual college football fan and someone says the word to you, Devy, it is not immediately recognizable what that is. And as from a business perspective, that means a great deal to me. I'll give you 2 examples. There's an establishment right down the street from my house. It's called Latino Tax. You don't have to guess what it is that they do. There's another in Detroit. If anybody's from the Detroit area, they grew up there, $2 soft cloth car wash. That was the name of the business. You don't have to guess what it is that business provides. But the word Devy, if you're in the fantasy football industry, yeah, you know what it means. But we are trying to attract both the fantasy community on one end and on the other end, the college football community. The people who, you might have a freshman or a sophomore at Georgia and they're interested in getting Dylan Royola, or they're interested in Dylan Royola. Hey, I didn't know that I could play with Dylan Royola on a fantasy team. The word Devy doesn't trigger anything for that person who may have not had a history with fantasy football. And even like the casual fantasy football player doesn't know what Devy is. That is my problem with the word, with the term, is that you have to be like an insider to know what it is. And I think that hurts growth. Matthew, you're sitting here chuckling and chuckling. Let the audience know what it is that you're laughing at.
I mean, we got some interesting comments coming in. Our text messages are blowing up a little bit. So it's a good time. I mean, so what are you going to change it to, though? We cover such a wide variety of topics. I don't know what you can change it to. Do we give in to Mike and become the college football debate? Like, that doesn't sound cool at all.
Don't you think
it's accurate? It's accurate though.
It is accurate.
We college football debate. We are the Latino tax.
He only says that because he's jealous about how damn good our show is. That's the only reason he complains about it, because we're not talking about Caleb Williams and Drake May and Marvin Harrison every single week. We go a little bit deeper. And I think that bothers him a little bit because he doesn't know. I mean, there is a running joke on the show that obviously you can name a player and Felix doesn't know who they are. The rest of us, the other 3 of us know, and Mike definitely doesn't know. So
I would just drop us a comment on this video. Let us know if you think that we should change the name of the show. The problem that I have, Chris, and I've been thinking about this for, I think, more than a year.
You've been talking about it for at least like 18 months, but like the first time that you brought it up, for sure.
I can't think of another word to use.
That's the problem.
Devy.
If there was a good alternative or solution, I think we would have
come up with it. Shooting from deep, says Todd in the chat. I do, that's a good one. But it has to be something that has college foot. See, the problem with the title, and I'm going to leave this here. The problem with college football is already a wordy name to include in a title. That's why you see people abbreviate it to CFB. But if we include it to college football debates or something, whatever, it's already a little too wordy. So help us out. If you're a fan of the show, if you're listening to this later, you can drop us a 5-star rating review and let us know if you think we should change the name of the show. If you're watching it on YouTube, let us know in the comments. Do you think we should change the name of the show, and what would you change it to?
I mean, in fairness, for those who don't know, a fan of us actually came up with the name of the show. So it would be,
apropos.
I was inverted.
That was where I was going to use Chris,
because I was inverted.
Right, so.
Came up with the name of the show. I've been in a long time league with Paul. All right. On a related note, I think it's the off season. I'm sorry, folks. We will get into player analysis here, but Chris, a question that I've wanted to ask or discuss is whether or not the Campus to Canton format has a potential for broader appeal than Devy, because in fantasy football, we like scoring points, and then in Devy, you're like, okay, let these players wait for a little bit. Campus to Canton is the opposite, obviously. It's the potential to score points, and it's more fantasy football. So I don't know. I think that there's the potential that even though it's considered a niche and Devy's considered a niche, I think that there's the potential that the campus to Canton format has a wider appeal because some of the fundamentals of more of the fundamentals of regular, normal, traditional fantasy football exist in campus to Canton formats where they don't in Devi.
So I tend to agree. And I don't think the jump from Devi to C2C is as massive as I think people think it is. Like, I think there's a big, I'm not really sure I even know the word for it, but people think that the learning curve is much greater than it is for campus Canton leagues and the resources that are out there, not even including our site. There are a ton of people producing college fantasy content that can help you bridge that gap. So I think that first, the jump from Devi to C2C is smaller than I think people realize. But second, you're attracting a whole new audience that has limited NFL, sometimes limited NFL interest, but want to get their, they want to pay attention on Sundays. They maybe
they're
not.
They're guys. They like their
Yeah.
guys. If you're an Alabama fan, you like your Bama guys. You like your Tennessee guys. You like your Michigan guys.
And so I don't think C2C leagues appeal to diehard NFL fans. Like, I don't think that's an appeal, but I do think it's an appeal to people who love college football and are tangentially interested in the NFL. Because you get to watch these players develop, put them on the NFL roster. There is a rooting interest in seeing a player succeed long term. So, like, with it, that's already baked in. I think if you get people playing, they will stick around. Like, I haven't met anyone who's like, hey, C2C leagues just aren't for me.
I haven't either.
And it might take a year to get to like a level of comfort where you could say, okay, yeah, like I feel like I can build a team and understand enough about how it works if you're coming from an NFL only background. But it's so much more engaging than the Devi format because those players just sit on your roster and you don't have to do anything with them. That's what I think people enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, long term, I definitely agree with you guys, but I think it's going to take some time for C2C to pass the Devi format because of some of the stuff that Chris mentioned. I mean, you can be semi-plugged in to college football and succeed in a Devi league, and you don't have to try that hard. And where I do agree with Chris, like, it's really not that big of a jump to go from Devi to C2C. But when you look at the fact that it's 130 plus teams and people talk about rostering 45 player rosters, and sometimes that's not even enough, it's daunting when you first hear about that. I mean, Felix, we talked a little bit about that on Campus Life, and I don't know anybody else has listened to the episode, but me and Corey talked about like the first time I played in a C2C league, I was going to sites like Walter Football because I thought I was supposed to be getting guys who had a chance to be drafted in the NFL in the 40th round. I didn't understand the CFF part of that, and that part's definitely grown in the space, but I still think that's an undervalued part of the C2C community, and people who are looking from the outside in don't understand that. They still think that. You're trying to we have those questions in the Discord, right? Hey, which guy in 38th round has better Devi upside? This guy. You probably shouldn't be going for that at that point. But that's the entryway in, and that's the way people view it. So I still think Devi is going to be the more preferred format for the short term. I do, like I said, I agree with you guys. C2C will probably take that over in the long term. But I mean, it's going to be around more. People understand it more. It's becoming more and more popular. We've talked a lot about this on this show and off the show. The fact that sites like Fantasy Pros are putting Devi rankings on their sites shows that it's a growing format. We haven't quite gotten there with C2C yet. So it just shows how popular Devi is becoming. I think C2C is that next bridge. It's like Redraft to Dynasty, right? Like, that's all it is. Yep. It's just we haven't gotten to that part yet. We're working our way to that.
When I first started playing the format, I thought to myself, I'll never have a mind like Kyle Francis, formerly of Devi Watch, or Nate Marquez.
I'm not sure anyone will of Kyle Francis, by the way.
Or even you, Mox. What I mean by that is, like, you guys just have this innate knowledge of what an offensive coordinator did where 3 years prior and what tight end scored where. But as I continue to play, I'm like, oh, I actually do have some of that knowledge baked in. It's not, Matt, like you said, it's not the learning curve that you think of, because I kind of think of it as is who is the next man up in a productive role. So who's the next man up in Phil Longo's slot? Who's the next running back at Fresno State? Who's the next running quarterback that Gus Malzahn has running for? You just start to learn Josh Heupel's offense. Who's replacing Josh Hyatt or Jalen Hyatt? Excuse me. You just start to learn where these spots for productivity are, and you just kind of click in. All right, you just ask yourself who's the next person there, and you get better and better I think C2C is more like golf than anything, because golf, you can never master it. The fact that the player pool changes year over year more so than the NFL does is that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun, is finding those second year, third year players, whomever, that nobody else is talking about.
And two things off that, which I think are pretty interesting. I don't think we're ever going to get to the place where there's an information overload, because I honestly believe it's impossible to master for even a group of 10, 20 people to master the 133 teams potentially expanding and all of that. Like, without consistent reporting on eligibility, injuries, transfers, etc., nobody will have that. So you don't have 100 analysts giving you the same information that you do for NFL Dynasty. Like, that will never exist. That information just simply isn't available. You have to comb through. The other day I was reading like Miami, Ohio Redhawks message boards, right? Like, that's how you have to get that information. There just isn't the accessibility aspect. And I think that's fun.
You could just talk to the head coach. I mean, you could also.
That's true. Friend of the program, Chuck Martin. But I think that's a rewarding aspect of it, doing that level of research. I think people over time enjoy that. But there's information available that there wasn't previously. The second thing, and I think what makes this format interesting is that it takes a year. Everyone I've talked to that is new is like, it took me probably a full calendar year to understand how to win in this format, what it takes, what to target, et cetera, especially for people who are totally unfamiliar with college football. Like, so it takes a year. It really does. Like, it is not something you can pick up extremely quickly. But I think once you are in it, like, it's very hard to step back and be like, I don't enjoy this format. It just takes time to know.
I think that the football draft evaluation community, in some respects and in some ways, looks down on the fantasy community. But if you look at our format, we have a vested interest in uncovering these guys early, whether it be Jamison Williams, Anthony Richardson, Michael Penix Jr. Like, we're trying to win here. And those guys are guys whose value, I mean, Todd showed me a screenshot from a league today where he drafted Michael Penix Jr. and Anthony Richardson in the 21st and 22nd round. Like, we have a vested interest.
Felix's wet dream.
Listen, I remember the very first Campus Life episode. Colin made fun of me for liking Michael Penix Jr., and now he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the sport. But all I'm saying is that NFL draft community, I mean, you could take pointers from us, because the guys that we are talking, Matthew, you will have to share what it is that's so funny. But the guys that we end up talking about, they'll end up talking about later. Go ahead, Matthew.
I was laughing at Chris's face when you said Michael Penix Jr. is one of the top 5 quarterbacks and whatever, and Moxley just had his eyes rolled so hard I thought the glasses were going to fall off his face. That's what I was laughing at.
I didn't say anything. I have an expressive face, and when we're talking about players that I do not necessarily, when you're talking about opinions that I do not necessarily agree with, my face may react in certain ways. So Michael Penix, top 5 quarterback, that elicits an eye roll.
Michael Penix Jr. is easily a top 5 quarterback in the sport of college football. If not, he's a top 10 quarterback. And back in 2021, when he was playing at Indiana and didn't even finish the season before that,
because he's had like 5 ACL tears.
Nobody had that on their bingo card. That was a terrible analogy. The CFF guide is out, folks. It was out July 1st, but July 1st just happened to be the day, that Twitter was acting weird. So if you want to get your hands on the CFF guide, you can get 10% off by using the promo code rate limit, just like it sounds, all one word. That rate limit really screwed us because everything went wonky on launch day. Get the CFF guide, promo code rate limit. I've got a supplemental draft starting next Monday. I've got like 21 picks in this draft. Actually, I think I have exactly 21 picks in the draft, including 3 first-rounders. You can bet after like the 5th round or so, I'm going to be taking a look at that CFF guide. Home Field Apparel. If you've bought anything from Home Field using our promo code, do me a favor. Post a picture on Twitter with your Home Field Apparel shirt and tag Campus to Canton at Campus to Canton. If you didn't know, you can use our promo code Campus to Canton for, is it 10% off or 15% off from Home Field Apparel? It's one of those. I forget what it is. And
I think it's 15%. I think for first time orders, right?
It's 15%.
And just
I'm pretty sure it's 10%, but
it's 10%.
Oh.
It's one of those. One of those. Okay. Yeah, those two things. Home Field Apparel, CFF guide. So it's the off season. We will eventually get into conference previews and we'll do it with our own little spin. I know everyone's doing that now, but Austin's not here. So we want to wait until Austin gets back to do conference previews. Today we're going to talk about 2 things: 2024 and 3 years. 2024 for our campus rankings and our C200 rankings 3 years from now. Let's start with our campus rankings, just the top 5 at each position. I don't know who wants to start, but just I guess to set the stage for this a little bit more, if there's a freshman in the 2024 class that you think deserves to be included, I personally, we'll get to that. You can include them. You know, the whole player pool is open that will be eligible in 2024. So, Matthew, I know you were texting about this exercise and having fun with it. So why don't you start off with your quarterback position?
Well, not this part specifically, more the C200. I'm very intrigued to see how that goes. Quarterback, I think, is probably fairly easy to do. I mean, obviously, Caleb, Drake, they're gone. I think Quinn's going to likely be gone, so it just bumps Drew Aller right up to number 1. Like, who else is going to take that number 1 spot? It's got to be Drew Aller. So he's number 1 for me. I don't see who else would jump that. I want Malachi Nelson at 2. I mean, he's been going toward the end of first-round drafts already, mostly due to the propaganda that Chris and Austin spew all over our network. So I'm not surprised if he's going to end up being the second quarterback taken off the board. He's going to be with Lincoln Riley, obviously heading over to the Big Ten. We'll see how that affects them. I'm curious to see how the travel affects them and UCLA and some of the Big Ten schools have to do that as well. But overall, quarterback with Lincoln Riley, I don't see how you bet against that. Number 3, Dante Moore, because I think he's going to start this year for UCLA at some point. And in that Chip Kelly offense, I think he's going to be really good. I know there's been a little bit of negative reports that he's got a little bit of a dead arm already. We'll see. I don't know. Everything I saw and everything I read said that he was killing it in the spring camp. Fall camp's right around the corner. We'll see what happens. Seemed to be between him and Ethan Garber. So I think Garber starts the season. If we see more and he plays well, like I don't see how you can jump anybody else over him. So those would be my top 3. This is probably where I think I'm going to split from you guys. I'm very curious to see who you guys have come in at 4 and 5. So at 4, I put Connor Wigman. I do think that he's going to have a good year with Texas A&M this year, and likely puts him up there toward probably the second quarterback behind Drew Aller. Like, I think this quarterback class is wide open. Both these guys, I think, could compete to be that number 2 quarterback. I don't think either one jumps Drew Aller. And then number 5 for me is Devin Brown, because I expect him to take over, whether it's for if Kyle McCord leaves after this year or he transfers out and gets a starting job somewhere. Like, we believed in the talent when he came in as a true freshman to Ohio State. There's a lot of people who think that he's better than Kyle McCord. However he gets on the field as a starter, I think because of the talent that he has, he should be the number 5, at least for me. It was between him and Cade Klubnik, and I think the tools Devin Brown has are much better than Cade, to be honest.
That's the first nice thing you've said about Devin Brown. And
I have been very complimentary of Devin Brown every time we talk about him, except for the fact that I think Kyle McCord is going to beat him out. That's it.
Matthew is a favorite child in the Ohio State quarterback room.
Every parent does.
Yeah,
just be honest. So
there you go.
I'll start here with the players that I do not have in my top 5. I think that's a little bit more interesting.
How is it every time we set a limit, you find a way to like squeeze in 10 more players to talk about?
I think
going to say,
before you start, let me say what you're going to say. I don't think Queen Ewers is going to the NFL this year. He has so much to work on. But even if he doesn't, I'm not putting him in my top 5. I think he is too raw. I've never seen a throw that's impressed me on his film. Show me a throw. I dare you to show me a throw. Here's my number. You can text me this.
Is that true? That's pretty good, Chris.
How far off? How far off am I?
So number one outside of my top 5 is Quinn Ewers. Number one out of my top 5 is Quinn Ewers, then Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck. I think he could come back. Nico Iamaleava and Connor Wegman. And then I'll add Dylan Royola too, because I don't think Dylan Royola, he'll be my number 1 quarterback, but I think he'll be outside of my top 10. The top that was pretty good, Chris.
It was accurate. I saved you all that time.
It's like you did the it's like you did the 8 Mile where you cut him off at the knees with everything he was going to say.
Your real name's Clarence.
Clarence parents got a real good marriage. Oh man, he goes to Cranbrook. That's a private school. All right, let's get this back on the train. I also have Drew Aller number 1. He's my quarterback 3, so that's not that's not a surprise given that Caleb Williams and Drake May are going to be gone. I have Dante Moore ranked ahead of Malachi Nelson, so I have Dante Moore will be number 2, Malachi Nelson 3. We will not have seen Malachi Nelson play a lot by the time we get to 2024. Now, maybe he gets on the field in some respects, but you remember, like, if we're comparing this to Spencer Rattler and Jalen Hurts, Spencer Rattler did not play a lot as a true freshman. So it could be the same thing for Malachi Nelson. And I know I'm being hypocritical here, but I have Jackson Arnold kind of jumping everyone and being number 4 here because of the offenses that he's in, because of his skill set. I'm projecting Jackson Arnold number 4. And then I don't know that Kyle McCord goes to the NFL after 1 year of starting. So I have a split of either Kyle McCord or Devin Brown here at number 5, a split between those two. Listen, I think I said this on the Campus Life show. There's a possibility that Devin Brown starts this year. Remember last year when everybody was drafting Jared Dagey super high because they thought he was the next quarterback at Western Kentucky, and it ended up being Austin Reed. Yeah, Austin Reed. It could be the same thing here, where it's Devin Brown that actually takes that job. We did not see Devin Brown in the spring game. We don't know what they're looking like in spring practice. Now, Matthew will tell you he knows, and he does have that information. But I think that this competition has not been called. Ryan Day is not named a starting quarterback. This competition is going into the fall. So it could be Devin Brown. And even if it's not to start the season, it could be going into the season that Devin Brown gets to start. So that's my top 5. It's Drew Aller, Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson, Jackson Arnold, and then either Kyle McCord or Devin Brown. On you, Mons.
I have essentially the same players. have one difference, one player that y'all don't include. Drew Aller won. I think we're all projecting him to take that step. I think Penn State's going to be really good this year, and he has some nice weapons. I have Malachi Nelson 2, Lincoln Riley quarterback. Caleb Williams is gone. Kind of easy plug and play. Dante Moore 3. I mean, we think he can get some reps this year. We already liked his profile. He's one of the most, ready quarterbacks in college football. Like, just super polished. 4, I have Jackson Arnold. I'm also projecting him, A, to start, and B, I just think he's a good player. And then I have Arch Manning 5. I think that Arch Manning is going to win this job, and I think that Malik Murphy is going to transfer somewhere else and be a very good quarterback. I actually really don't doubt Malik Murphy. This is more just like, hey, it's Arch Manning, the number 1 recruit in his class. I think he's going to take over for Quinn Ewers, who I think is going to the NFL. So I have Arch 5. And there were a couple other players I thought about. Like, I thought about Cade Klubnik. I thought about Connor Wegman. But I have so many questions about their respective games that I just felt better projecting a guy like Arch, who I think already has the size, already has the mobility, is in a Steve Sarkisian offense. Like, I think things line up for him a little bit better than I feel about Wegman and Klubnik, who are next on my list.
I want to say this about that Texas quarterback competition next year, Mox, because you've been saying this, but I think that we are committing the same sin that we may have with Brock Vandegrift and Carson Beck. We saw the spring game. One guy was clearly the
Brock Vandegrift's name is not Brock Manning, though.
What the fact that he's a Manning doesn't mean anything on Saturday when you have to actually win games. It might mean something to the boosters, and maybe they're putting pressure on
which does matter.
Like, that's like speculation that they're going to control who it is that he starts. But what I'm saying is that there's one player that is clearly the number 2 right now, and that's Malik Murphy. He's going to go into.
I agree with that. If anything happens to Quinn, Malik's coming in. Arch Manning is 3 on the depth chart. Like, I don't disagree with that. I just think by the time we reach next offseason, July 5th, I think Arch Manning is going to be the guy who's leading for quarterback 1. And whether Malik Murphy is there or not at this time, I don't think he will be. I think he will transfer to another Power 5 program and find success. I just think I don't think Texas can, like, in so many different ways, move off of Arch, just like with perception of the program, boosters, all of that. Like, I just don't see that feasible. Arch not starting next year, and I think he's a good player too. I think he got like unfairly dinged because people were like he got overrated by the Manning name. He's still a really good quarterback prospect. Yeah, he played crappy competition and like struggled at times, but he's still really good.
Let's say hypothetically, the peanut gallery in the comments is going off here. I don't know why Austin can't be here, but he's sitting there being a backseat driver. Let's say hypothetically that Quinn Ewers goes to the NFL after this season. Arch Manning,
hypothetically, of course.
Hypothetically, Arch Manning is the number 3. He'll redshirt this year. He can sit next year behind Malik Murphy and then start in 2025 and still have 3 years of eligibility left. So I don't think that there's.
If he starts in 2025, he's only playing 1 year college football. Like, so I think Arch Manning's really good. Like, I don't think he's a bad player. Like, I think he is the quarterback 2 or quarterback 3 in this class, depending on how you want to evaluate him. There's no way that he's sitting behind Malik Murphy for a year. Like, I just don't believe he'll transfer to somewhere else. He'll go to like Alabama or Georgia. Like, he'll transfer out if he is sitting behind Murphy. I just refuse to believe that he is not starting in 2024 for some team in the country.
I mean, last summer, you were talking about how the boosters were going to make sure that Quinn Ewers started over the better player in Hudson Card, according to you. But now you're going to fight and argue saying that Malik Murphy is not going to be benched by the boosters for Arch Manning, of all players. Yes, when you were on your whole little, they're splitting first-team reps and all this, and Hudson Card's a better quarterback. The boosters are going to be the reason that Quinn Ewers starts.
I said that Hudson Card was going to start, and he did.
No, he did not. Wait.
No,
You're
no,
talking
he
about
didn't.
2 years ago with Hudson
talking
Card
about
versus
2 years
Casey
ago.
Thompson.
Okay, yeah,
and
yeah.
Hudson Card still started
Some
game
man in
one
the high
over
castle
Casey
shit.
Thompson.
Just a different alternative reality where Hudson Card started and Quinn Ewers was the backup the whole season.
The comment section adds, name a better duo than Felix in overvaluing the backup in spring because they've been on campus way longer. Okay, you can throw that Hudson Card example at my face, but 3 years ago, I said that CJ Stroud was going to start over Kyle McCord because he had 1 year longer in the system. Just saying. That ended up being true.
The majority of people were not projecting Kyle McCord to start.
There was one person. There was one person that said Kyle McCord was going to start. So I mean,
yeah, I don't. This don't you people this for me. It's one person.
Matthew, do you want to give us your running backs?
Yeah. So my top 5 running backs, I think, is fairly simple. Singleton just moves up to number 1. I think that's pretty easy call for me. I have Judkins right behind him. He goes right up into number 2. I think those are easily the top 2 running backs. 3 for me is going to be Cedric Baxter. I think he does have a real good shot to play this year. I know a lot of people think Jonathan Brooks is going to be the starter, and I do think he'll probably start day 1. But the fact that he still hasn't been able to make it out there in summer, dealing with that groin injury, and the coaching staff talking up Cedric Baxter, personally, I think Baxter is by far the best running back on that roster. He's going to play some this year, and I think he's going to be so good it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. Again, Mock just mentioned the Steve Sarkisian offense. He's always had a 1,000-yard running back. I think he's likely going to be the number 3 for me. 4, Branson Robinson. Expect him to come in and take over for Georgia at that point and be the starting running back. I still think he's going to get a lot of run this year. I know Jared has told us that Kendall Milton will be the guy, but I mean, Kendall Milton's supposed to have been the guy for
3 years running, baby. 3 years running.
Branson Robbins just a better player. And then 5 for me, Justice Haynes. I don't know that he gets a lot of run this year, but I would not be surprised if it's at worst a 50-50 split with Jam Miller next year in Alabama. And he's an extremely talented running back. Alabama, who I think could have a bad year this year, might be pushing the chips all in next year because I really don't know how. I mean, Saban may coach till he croaks on the sideline, like Sonny Weaver style here. But I do think that he's trying to get that national championship. I think Justice Haynes should be he should be in the top 5. For me, he just comes into 5 because we will likely see less of him than any of the others.
So we almost have all of the same players, except for I've got Donovan Edwards in my top 5 because I think that there's a chance that he has a Najee Harris-like career trajectory where he stays for his senior season. So I have him at 3. Nicholas Singleton at 1. Nicholas Singleton is already my number 1 running back. I have Justice Haynes at 2. Quinchon at 3. Donovan Edwards at 4. Cedric Baxter at 5. And Branson Robinson. Well, that's 5. And I have Branson Robinson actually at 6. So Branson Robinson is going to be hard because he shares time. So, it's going to be hard to get above these guys who might get a primary or majority workload in their backfield. So that's my top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same guys essentially. I have Singleton 1. I actually put Baxter above Judkins mostly because I think he has better receiving upside, and so I that's more attractive to me. Judkins comes at 3, obviously. Justice Haynes at 4. I think that he's going to. McClellan's going to be gone. I think Roydell Williams is probably going to be gone. I think he is entering next year as the RB1. I think he's better player than Jam Miller is. And then 5, I really struggled with who I wanted to put here because I wanted to put a Georgia back, either Roderick Robinson or Branson Robinson. And I was like, well, I like both. I don't know what to do. I actually went with Ruben Owens at Texas A&M.
Okay.
I could see him under Jimbo being a feature back the same way that we saw Isaiah Spiller be. I think he's a good player. I think he kind of went underrated through the recruiting cycle on our end, even though he was fairly highly rated on most services. So I put Ruben Owens at 5. I think that he's a really interesting trajectory and someone who could see the field kind of early if Jimbo actually trots out a freshman, which he did last year.
And Jimbo, one of those coaches that kind of prefers a bell cow and will run them and give them a majority. I don't
like the upperclassmen in that system. Like I really don't think any of them are super talented.
Yeah.
Who is it? Amari Daniels.
Who's running with the ones? I can't for the life of me remember who it is.
I don't even remember.
I thought Amari Daniels was running with the ones.
He might have been. They were splitting a lot during spring. Ruben Owens never really got any run with the ones or the twos. He was strictly as like the third guy, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets run at some point in time in the season. I don't think any of those guys are extremely talented personally.
Do you think that Ruben Owens, well, the 2024 class doesn't have like a dude at running back that I've seen, but is he a guy that could get recruited over?
No.
Even a transfer. Even a transfer.
It would depend on who the transfer is. I think he's a really good running back. I mean, he's still, I'm almost positive, was at like the top of our tier 2. He was like our RB4. It's not like we were low on him. We just didn't think he was as good as Cedric Baxter and Justice Haynes. Like, it's not a shot at him. It's just we didn't think he was that good. I mean, he's still a very good running back. They've got a great offensive line. My problem with Ruben Owens is Jimbo Fisher is the best at doing the least with the most. And like, that's what I'm worried is going to happen with Ruben Owens. He's just not going to be able to do anything with the guy.
And I'm the number one Jimbo apologist. So
I'm usually there with you, but like, I mean, you mentioned Isaiah Spiller, but Spiller never got, I believe, over 200 carries. Like he was never given that guy. Maybe it was not over 300. Like he wouldn't. He also actually 200 because the last one to do was Dalvin Cook in his offense. Like,
I mean, he also had Devin Achane like to compete with though, and Devin Achane was like
fair, but I don't think his first year he had Devin Achane, did he?
I don't think so. I think both those players.
I mean, granted, Spiller wasn't
first year
very good as a freshman. He really kind of blew up that sophomore year, but it's still,
You're basically my projection for Ruben Owens is that he jumps Amari Daniels and Le'Veon Moss on the depth chart, and I don't think that's that difficult to do.
That's what I was thinking of, Le'Veon Moss.
Yeah,
Le'Veon Moss. So okay, all right, Matt, you want to give us your wide receivers?
Yeah, this is where I think we're all going to differ the most.
Yes.
I'm keeping Luther Burden at 1, mostly because of they brought over Fresno State's offensive coordinator. We've seen what he can do with these wide receivers that can be moved all around the formation. And they brought in, and I don't remember their name, so I apologize. Go check out Nate Marquise's article on campus2canton.com about the coaching changes because he dives deep into this, gives you a lot better information I'm going to give you right now. But they also brought in Ole Miss's wide receiver coach. That was the reason that DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Elijah Moore developed into what they were able to do. Luther Burden has all the talents in the world. I think they're going to have a better quarterback situation this year as well. Again, while he didn't have the year that Antonio Williams and Evan Stewart had, he broke literally every single one of our year 1-0 theories, every single category, which from everything Chris Moxley and Austin Nace have told me is very rare for wide receivers to do. So the fact that he did that in what we consider a very bad year just shows how good of a wide receiver he is. So I'm not moving him. I think he's going to have a massive year this year. 2 for me is then Evan Stewart. Saw what he was able to do as a freshman last year, and I put Connor Wigman up in my top 5. I think Evan Stewart's going to be a major winner from that as well, from how good Connor Wigman's going to be in this new offense. 3 for me, Antonio Williams. While I'm not big on Cade Klubnik per se, I do think Garrett Riley is going to be an uptick for that offense. And I think Antonio Williams has already shown us last year he's the best wide receiver in this wide receiver group. I think he's just going to do it again this year. 4 for me, Jonte Cook. I think that he is going to get on the field some this year, whether it's because Isaiah Nayor isn't quite what we thought he is. Maybe they use A.D. Mitchell more as like, I don't want to say a gadget player, but like this deep shot guy, and then Jonte Cook just gets moments. I think he's that special of a player. And then going into next year, I think he's going to be even better. He's going to be the number 1 for Texas. And this is the one that I know I'm the only one who's going to have him on my list. Freshman wide receiver Micah Hudson. I think that he is going to be drafted in the first round next year because of likely how high we as a company are going to be talking about him. I know Austin and Matt, I believe, have him both ranked as their highest wide receiver grades ever since we've been doing this. He's up to the top for me as well. And there's a chance that he goes to Texas Tech where there is literally nobody standing in his way of being the target hog in the offense, which we want that wide receiver. Questions about the quarterback, obviously, but we saw how good Jared Brandley was. We were all excited about Miles Price. We're still excited about that offense. If Micah Hudson goes there with the talent that he is, I mean, I'm going to misquote Austin here, but I'm almost positive the quote was he's the smoothest wide receiver in this class. Like, he is just extremely talented and polished, almost as good as that little salsa dancing Chris Moxley just did right there. He is going to be drafted in the first round next year. So, I think he's going to smash as a true freshman.
Yeah, I actually specifically limited this to top 5 because I thought if we included top 5, it was less likely that a freshman would be included. But I mean, hey, I don't have Luther Burden. Luther Burden reminds me so much of Laviska Shenault. Now, I think Laviska Shenault is a talented player. Chris, did you know that I was going to say that? You're shaking your head.
No, I just agree with that. And
Oh, okay.
He's in my top 5, but he's at 5.
I always thought Laviska Shenault was a talented player who was just utilized, use him the way they used him at Colorado State, which is in a Rondale Moore-like role. I mean, there's a reason why they got to the red zone. They put him at quarterback as opposed to throwing him fades at Colorado.
It's Cordell Patterson.
Exactly.
All roads. What is it?
Roads. All roads.
Yeah, all roads lead to Cordell Patterson. I forgot the expression.
So I don't have Luther Burden in my top 5. My top 5 is Evan Stewart, Barian Brown, Antonio Williams. I think Teteroa McMillan makes a big jump this year because they don't have Dorian Singer there. And I think that his production is going to call. And remember, that's that Jed Fish spread offense. And you can say what you want about Jaden DeLaura. You know, he makes dumb decisions sometimes and he turns it over. But that dude, he's going to throw it downfield. He's going to throw it a lot. He's a gunslinger. So I think that Teteroa McMillan takes a big leap. I mean, if he had 10 touchdowns receiving this year, would you be surprised? No, he should be the red zone weapon. And then I got Squirrel White at number 5 because, again, of what I think his production is going to be. So I had him kind of jump over, he jumped over all of the freshmen. So Zachariah Branch, who I don't know, what his role is going to be this year. Jonte Cook, again, don't know what his role is going to be this year. Like Carnell Tate, those are the top 3, I guess. So I had Squirrel White potentially, but I mean, I can see if Zachariah Branch or Jonte Cook has 700 yard receiving and Squirrel White has 1,200, I can see their value being kind of equal because we're baking into Squirrel White's value the fact that he plays in a gimmicky offense. He's a smaller player, but still. So that's my top 5.
I have pretty much very similar to both y'all. I have Evan Stewart 1. I think that there's a chance that he emerges as the best underclassman in college football, the receiver position this year. I just was super impressed with what he did last year, especially in his freshman season under Jimbo. That says a lot. Number 2, I have Jonte Cook. I think he's everywhere that he's gone. I think the other option that offense are good, but I think Cook is clearly the best. And so I think the wide receiver 1 in this offense is a pretty valuable place to hold. And I just think he's good in general. 3, I have Antonio Williams. I think that he's going to take that necessary step as well with Clemson, especially with Garrett Riley under calling plays and everything. So love him. I have Micah Hudson 4. Actually, I have watched very little. Yeah, I've watched very little of him, but everything that I have heard, plus he's a top 10 player in his class at wide receiver. Everything I've heard is spectacular. I've watched him and he just moves different. He's your prototypical wide receiver too. He's 6 foot 190, that size that the NFL is starting to really fall in love with. So I have him 4, then I have Luther Burden 5. And the only reason I kept Luther Burden in the top 5 is because I like his athleticism. I really don't like the way that he was utilized last year. He was really, really limited. He's way more raw than I think people realize that he is. I don't think that he can run routes past 10 yards currently. And whether or not that was fixed in the spring is TBD, but he operates at the line of scrimmage for a guy whose athletic as he is and his size, it's a concern. But I'll just bet on the athleticism and say, hey, he figures it out at some point. So
Matthew, would you have Micah Hudson ranked ahead of any of the freshman wide receivers in this class, in the 2023 class?
Yeah, he's technically graded as he's technically like 0.3 points behind Zachariah Branch. But in fairness to that, he hasn't technically picked a school yet, and that goes into our grade, so I don't have that in there. Once I do, he's going to jump Zachariah Branch. So he's going to be my top graded wide receiver. To be honest, him, Mylan Graham are both I have graded higher than any of the wide receivers in this class.
So did anyone have Zachariah Branch in their top 5?
No.
That's pretty interesting because he's often the first wide receiver off the board, and we gave like a bunch of different options, which I think is fairly interesting because I worry about his size. Like, he's a pretty small dude. And I think he's athletic and like electric. And I think you can see the I think you see Jalen Waddle there if you squint, but he's small, man. Like, I don't know. He goes as the first wide receiver. Just that concerns me. I think I'd rather bet on Jonte Cook, who isn't like a big dude per se, but like he's bigger than Zachariah Branch.
Well, the only slot, like the pure, so Zachariah Branch to me is a pure slot wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't think he play outside.
And the only guy that I have as a pure, I think Antonio Williams probably profiles as a slot wide receiver. The rest of these guys are a little bit more versatile. So that's another reason why like he's not in my top 5.
I like so Ted McMillan was the guy that I was fighting with at 5, or Luther Burden for what's worth. I think that's a good call out.
I have Ted in my C200. I didn't put him in my top 5 because we're going 3 years out. I'll give my reasoning on that why, but the reason I didn't put Branch in my top 5 is I do think when we get to next year, I do think he'll do more this year as a freshman than any of the other guys they brought in. But when we get to next year, that connection Nelson has with Lemon, like, I don't think we should overlook that. And Mekhi Lemon will be the other guy there. I don't know that we've seen when they've got 2 good weapons like that. I don't know that Zachariah Branch is going to be like this stud CFF asset either. And I do have some questions about what the projection is to the NFL. So that was the only reason I didn't put him in my top 5.
Yeah, just thought that was an interesting leave out by all of us, because I think Austin would agree too if he was here. So maybe we're lower on aggregate than on Branch than maybe everybody else's.
He's going to be a top 10 wide receiver. It's just that top 5.
For sure.
Like, I think that all these guys are going to get production this year. So, did everybody do a tight ends? I feel like sometimes we skip.
I did tight ends.
Of course, I'm sure. I did 3. I did a top 3. So,
I had top 5. Oh, you want to hear my top 5? Yeah. I have Deuce Robinson 1. So I don't think he's that good of a baseball player for what it's worth. And if a team wants to draft him, they will have to draft and keep him interested in baseball. They will have to draft him in the 2nd and 3rd round. And I don't think he's 2nd or 3rd round quality of a player. And so like that is my guess that I'm taking with him. He says he wants to play both. I don't know. He's by far the best tight end entering 2024, so I'm just going to push my chips in on him. I have Oscar Delp too. I think Delp steps into the Brock Bowers role and probably sees a lot of like great production out of it. Andrew Rapplier 3rd. I trust Penn State to really develop their tight end position, especially strength conditioning wise. So I really, really like him. 4th and 5th are kind of like, I had trouble going between the 2, but I picked Pierce Sperlin, another Georgia guy. Him and Lawson Lucky are both really good players, and they run into good tight ends. So, but I liked Sperlin more prior, so I went with him. And then 5, I picked Mason Taylor, who I think is getting pretty underrated based off of the true freshman season that he had at LSU. So I really like him. So I put him 5. But there's a couple guys like I was going through, like RJ Maryland was one where I was like, I really want to get him in there, but I don't know. He's a little on the smaller side. So, but yeah, I did top 5.
All of these tight ends are on the smaller side as far as weight goes. Some of them have the requisite height, but like Oscar Delp is 230. He's an undersized guy too. It's funny because I think we have almost the same guy. I only did a top 3. I have Deuce Robinson number 1. I actually went in my campus rankings and I moved him up a few spots. It was like
This dude is he's just so pterodactyl and he's super athletic. I have Colston Loveland number 2, another guy who can, he was a wide receiver and then converted to tight end. I think that he'll be there at number 2. I think he's my number 3 tight end right now. And then I have Oscar Delp number 3. I mean, for athletic, he had some stats last year for a true freshman. Played well, and he was the number 3 tight end, the number 3 tight end for that team. So anytime you got these tight ends running these wheel routes down the field and catching touchdowns, that makes my eyes, perk up a little bit. And he did a little bit of that. So that's my top 3. I didn't do 5. Oh, Mox, you love Rappelier. You love you some Rappelier.
Yeah, I've drafted him a lot. I've taken him in a lot of drafts. I think he's a really good player. First of all, I think you put this dude in the Penn State program and stars align.
Yeah. All right. Let's go here to our C200. Again,
does Matt does not have tight end rankings?
No, I did
Matt
not
said he didn't. He said he didn't have tight end.
I figured he would cover it for the rest of us. So
I had Colston Loveland 6, by the way.
Okay. So
he's just a little small. I wish he would add a little more weight, but they're all small.
Yeah,
like
they
you
are.
said.
They are. They're all thin. We don't have that 250-pound guy who can run a 4.6. I went back and looked at Travis Kelce's 24/7 recruiting profile. He was 252 in college. He was that big in college.
Well,
so
it's the Michael Mayer experience where Michael Mayer enters college at 245 and already ready.
Yeah. All right. So for those who don't know, the C200 is our combined NCAA and NFL ranking. So we wanted to look again 3 years into the future to see where we would be as far as those rankings go. And so I don't know, Matthew, I guess we'll start with you.
Okay.
You can just give us where you're at.
All right. So I did choose some violence here. Mahomes number 1. I mean, he's not going anywhere. It's 3 years. Number 2. Anyone want to take a guess?
If it's
Anthony Richardson.
It's my guy, Anthony Richardson, baby.
Oh
the rushing upside alone, he's going to be fantasy-wise, I think he's likely going to be up there, which then brings in Josh Allen at number 3, Caleb Williams at number 4. I have him jumping Joe Burrow just because of the rushing, although Burrow might end up still being a better player. I think he is a better quarterback, honestly, but probably because of the rushing upside with Caleb Williams, I'm moving him over Burrow. Brings Drake May in here, and then what is that? 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at 7. Going to continue with some violence here a little bit. Marvin Harrison Jr. over Justin Jefferson, over Jamar Chase. They're still both going to be in their primes. Don't get me wrong. We're only talking 3 years out. But if we're being honest, people love themselves some rookies. And if Marvin Harrison comes out and has a really good rookie season next year, going into his second season, I think he might jump some of those guys. I think he's going to be phenomenal. I've already said on some other shows, I think he's going to be better than Jamar Chase personally. May not be better than Justin Jefferson. We'll see. But then that follows Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Justin Herbert. Then I have Drew Allar, who will be in his second year, I think, at that point. Or that'll be his rookie year. I'm getting my years off here. That'll be his rookie season. Rookie season. Yeah. So going in as a rookie, I think I think he's going to have a really good season next year and as a junior as well, or this year and as a junior. Going into a rookie, I think he's going to be easily the number 1 quarterback. That brings me to Bijan. Dropped him a little bit. That's going to be 3 years into his contract. He's only going to have 2 more years. We just haven't seen the NFL be willing to pay these guys. Well, I think him and Jonathan Taylor may be the exceptions to the rule. I got to see it to believe it. We won't know until next year with Jonathan Taylor. So I dropped Bijan just a little bit because of the fact that he'll be 3 years into the NFL already. Nicholas Singleton comes in next. He'll be a rookie. I think he has a chance to go in the first round. 5 years on that contract. He's going to deserve to be up there. Garrett Wilson then comes in for me next. CJ Baxter, I do think he's going to have 2 really great years. People love themselves some running backs. Justice Haynes comes in next. Then for me, Mecca Egbuka. I mean, I think Mecca is an extremely talented wide receiver who's likely going to go in the first round. Wide receiver really starts to kind of drop off after a couple of those top guys. There's not a lot of guys in this range that I really like. I mean, you're talking about guys like, does Chris Olave take that jump? I don't like any of these freshmen. Drake London, who I liked, is honestly right now on a bad offense, and I can't project that it's going to get any better. I love Desmond Ridder, but I don't know that he's going to be the guy to raise Kyle Pitts and Drake London's floor. So we'll see what happens with them. That's why Mecca came in for me here. Jahmyr Gibbs, again, it'll be year 3 of a 5-year contract. I think he deserves to be in the top 20, but he's not going to be as high as some of those younger guys. Then this is when Teteroa McMillan comes in for me, because I do think he has a chance to be one of the top wide receivers in his class because of his skill set. I think there's a shot that he gets first-round draft capital, and if he goes out on a good team and has a good rookie season, I think he deserves to be up here. Go ahead.
Well, he would be a rookie that year.
Yeah.
No.
Would
he be a rookie that year?
That'd be
it would be his second year.
Yeah,
just like Aller. Just like Aller.
It would be Aller. Okay, yeah. So I think he's going to, but I do think he gets first-round draft capital if he has a good rookie season. I don't know. The numbers are confusing me too. I was basing this on 5 years, and then I had to go back and try and readjust this. And then last for me at number 20 is Quinn Ewers, because I do think he comes out this year. He's going to get first-round draft capital. And the only reason I didn't put him higher is because he's not going to bring you the rushing floor, probably even of Drew Allard. So that's why I think Allard was 7 for me. But Quinn comes in here top 20 because I do believe the arm talent's there. He's going to get first-round draft capital. I mean, a lot of our C200s, Dak Prescott was in this range. I don't think it's unfair to say Quinn Ewers is better than Dak Prescott. So,
I mean, Dak Prescott had a higher than 60% completion percentage, but neither here nor there. Matthew's audio sounds distorted to me. If it is, we'll get it corrected next week. I just want to point that out. I'm going to read my top 20 as it sits now, because I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. This is how it sits top right now: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Anthony Richardson at 10, Caleb Williams, Bijan Robinson, Bryce Young, Joe Burrow, A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Adams, Jonathan Taylor. So that is how I have it sitting right now. I don't think that it changes that much. One of my changes is I'm taking Anthony Richardson to number 6. I still have him behind Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. I took Caleb Williams from number 11 to number 7. Justin Fields actually went down just a bit. Actually, I could probably put Justin Fields ahead of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson in 3 years, just because of the injury he's taken, he might be done. Marvin Harrison Jr., I moved him up from 16 to 12. And Jahmyr Gibbs is outside of my top 20 here. He's number 19, and Nick Singleton is number 20. CeeDee Lamb moved up. Well, he stayed the same. Joe Burrow moved down from 14 to 16. Bijan Robinson moved down from 12 to 14. But other than that, there's not I didn't see a substantial change. I mean, you might consider that substantial, but I don't think Tet McMillan gets there to the top 20 in our C200. I think that we'll still have some of these guys who are more established in the NFL. And it's damn sure not going to have Quinn Ewers in the top 20. I'll put a face tattoo bet on that one.
Mike Tyson face tattoo bet. Yes.
Tyson face tattoo bet.
I will serious bet you. You gotta get Texas Longhorn somewhere on you. I don't care where. You put wherever.
On your face, on your forehead. On your forehead.
I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that.
No, I do. On your forehead.
Poor dude's still single. Come on now, Chris. We're trying. We're let Felix. I mean, I wasn't trying to Felix isn't married right now, currently. I don't want to ruin any future potential suitors by having a big Texas Longhorn on the middle of his forehead. That's all.
Mox.
Okay. Mahomes 1, obviously. I don't know how you can have him 1. Caleb Williams 2. Just think that he ascends there. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Josh Allen. Think he starts rushing less. He's a big dude, and I think that's probably going to play into it. Bijan Robinson 6. I just think he's a special talent. You're already seeing how Jonathan Taylor is valued entering his year 3 season. Marvin Harrison Jr. 7, Drake May 8, Nick Singleton 9, Burrow 10, Justin Herbert 11. Player that I don't know if either of y'all mentioned, Trevor Lawrence at 12. I think that he takes that step this year. Really excited to see what he does. Garrett Wilson 13, special player. Anthony Richardson 14, Malachi Nelson 15, Nick Singleton. Do I have him twice?
You do have Nick Singleton twice, yes.
Whatever.
That was probably supposed to be Quinn Ewers, but the chat we were having earlier messed you up. So
I don't think it was. I think it's supposed to be CeeDee Lamb. Jahmyr Gibbs 17, Drew Lour 18, CJ Stroud 19, and Jalen Hurts 20. And that's proud for Hurts rushing less. Like, same reason I don't have Lamar Jackson in my top 20. I just like projecting a couple of years. It's hard to see these guys like continue to rush the way they are.
Next week, we will have Todd Foster joining us on the show. He just started a new show, the C2C Trade Portal. So he's going to join us. We'll do some trades. We'll promote his show. I think Austin will be back also. And we may start conference previews. We need to hurry up and get those done because the season is like 6 weeks away or 5 weeks away. So
we're gonna have to double up on our previews.
We are gonna have to double up. We're gonna have to do some 2-hour shows, and I know Matthew starts complaining right about this time. So, all right, that is gonna be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit, we ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Chris Moxley and Matt Bruning, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
Are we doing an after show? The people were.
I don't know. We can.
That's fine with me.
We haven't done
say
an after show.
something.
in a
I'm
long-
going to hit the end broadcast. So
Yeah, you always like hitting the end broadcast, but
yes, I do because I like to go to bed.
we need to get you a new job.
Yeah, we do.
So can I give you what my perception is? Is Matthew has no desire to change jobs. He wants to
It's
stay
not.
at this job.
No, I do not want to stay at my job.
Does
But-
Matt love saying that? Oh, I have to work and go to work early. Is that a perk of his job?
No, I mean, I don't hate my job in the fact that I get to listen to podcasts all day long and be left alone. So it's kind of not bad on that fact, just having to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I just don't like getting 3 hours of sleep. That's really all it is. I mean,
Yo, can we talk real quick? Like, do y'all think boiled hot dogs are that weird?
no,
I don't think it's
don't.
weird. It's just not the flavorful way to cook.
But I mean, like, if I had a grill, like, I wouldn't like I already grill. Like, obviously, I'm gonna grill the dogs, but like, boiled hot dogs are not bad.
No,
like,
dude, but-
they're alternative.
This is coming from a guy who has a personal chef. All right, like Austin.
Well, no, 76% of people on this Twitter poll said that they would not consume a boiled hot dog. And I was like,
Yes,
what?
they would.
I was like, you go to a stadium, you get a hot dog on the street. All of these are boiled hot dogs. Like, what do you expect? Like, nobody's grilling your dogs for you in these situations. Like, what are you talking about? What kind of snobby person do you have to be to only eat grilled hot dogs?
I wouldn't say I only eat grilled hot dogs, but I would definitely prefer grilled hot dogs.
Yes,
But the
everyone
other-
would prefer grilled hot. I prefer chili cheese dog made with like Wilbur from Charlotte's Web's meat. Like, I'm getting cheap ass pig, you know. Sorry, I'm just really passionate.
You guys were in the chat though, with all your bad cooking takes, because somebody was in the chat talking about how putting a steak in the oven is the right way to cook it. I'm just
Well,
like,
if
you guys have gone too far.
Listen. You sear both sides and then you put it in. It's not a bad steak.
If the steak is thick enough, you almost have to cook it that way, or you can do it the opposite way. You put it in the oven and then sear it on the skin. But most of the time, your steak isn't that thick where you need to put it in the oven to roast it. But I mean, that's just a bland.
No,
way
that's
to cook
but that's
steak.
not.
A steak needs charcoal. I prefer charcoal, and if not charcoal, then my second option is a cast iron skillet.
Well, I would sear in a skillet and then put it in the oven. Like, I think that's the best way to do it, depending on the thickness and the cut of the meat, right? But I'm not putting. What am I not putting in the oven? I'm not putting like some sort of like hanger steak in the oven. Like that would literally be disgusting and defeat the purpose. But so Austin's in the chat right now. I've never eaten a street dog. Is that the least surprising thing you've ever seen? I've never eaten a street dog. Oh, when I go to my sports games, I sit in the box, so it's all catered.
Yep, pretty much. Yep.
Like, come on. I just don't think everyone consumes boiled hot dogs, and it just sounds worse than it is. Like someone commented on my tweet, and that was perfect. I was like, yes, it sounds worse than it is, but everyone consumes them. That is like a normal human being. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think we were refuting your position that it is the preferred way to consume them. That is what
But that was never my position. I just said I make them because they're the easiest that way. Isn't my preferred? No, but like y'all. Okay, I said this once and it got glossed over, but I will admit it here because this is a safe space. So I have a hot dog cooker. It's a dog. It looks like a dog, like a nose, everything. It's called Hero the hot dog maker, Hero the hot dog cooker, something like that. And so you put, I think, 4 ounces of water in the bottom, and it cooks the dog. So like essentially they're steamed. It's Hero, but when Hero finishes, like all the water evaporates from the bottom. It barks. It's like ruff, ruff, ruff. Ruff, ruff, ruff. And so that's usually how I make my hot dogs. And every hot dog I've had of that is good.
You have a hot dog teapot, basically.
His name is Hero, but yeah.